The jobless mother on a dying planet. The sun was weak over track 17, a dying mining planet lost in the far edges of the galaxy. The air smelled like rust and ash. Every morning the sky looked gray, and the wind carried dust instead of hope. Jala wrapped a thin cloth over her daughter Mira's face and held her hand tightly. The little girl coughed, a deep, dry sound that echoed in the empty streets. "Stay close," Jala said softly. She was a widow, alone, jobless, and unwanted. On track 17, widows were seen as bad luck. People believed death followed them. No one wanted to hire her. But she still walked every day, factory to factory, door to door, hoping someone would give her a chance. The planet had once been rich, full of energy crystals. Now, the mines were empty, the factories almost closed, and robots had taken most of the jobs. Jala stopped in front of the big metal gates of Sornik's factory. She looked up. The building was tall but broken in many places. Smoke still came out of one tower. That meant someone was working inside. She stepped forward, holding Mira in one arm. "Please," she said to the guard. "I can clean. I can carry things. I worked in mines before." The guard looked at her with cold eyes. "We don't hire widows. Go." "I'll work for half," she begged. "My daughter should die if you stay on this planet." The guard interrupted. "Not my problem." Mira coughed again. Jala's face burned with shame and sadness. She turned away, holding back tears. As they walked back through the crowded lower district, people avoided them. Some crossed the street. Others whispered, "She's cursed." "Bad omen." Jala kept walking, head down. Her home was a small metal box, a shipping container turned into a shelter. Inside, it was dark and cold. She gave Mira the last drops of clean water. "I'll find something tomorrow," she whispered. "I promise." But she didn't believe her own words anymore. Outside, someone watched from the shadows. A man, tall and silent, with a long coat covered in dust. His face was hidden under a dark hood. He held a small black notebook. He had been following Jala for 3 days. Quiet, careful. He turned a page in his notebook and wrote, "Widow, resilient, observant, not afraid of hardship, protects child, potential candidate." Then he closed the notebook and walked away into the shadows. That night, Jala sat awake. The air purifier had stopped working. Mira wheezed in her sleep. Jala covered her with her own jacket. Then tap tap, someone knocked on the door. She got up, afraid. Who would visit her at night? No one was outside. Only dust and silence. But on the floor, she found a piece of paper. Old, folded, and simple. She opened it. Inside were only a few words. "Report to Dock 14, tomorrow. One last chance." Her hand shook. Was it a trick? A trap? Or a real job? She looked at her sleeping daughter. Her eyes were closed, her breathing weak. Jala didn't know what waited at Dock 14. But she had nothing left to lose. The next morning came with a colder wind than usual. Jala wrapped Mira in a blanket and tied her close to her back. The little girl was too weak to walk. Her cough had become worse, sharp and painful. Jala had no medicine, no food, and now, no time to waste. She stepped out onto the dusty street, holding the strange note in her hand. Dock 14, one last chance. She didn't know who had left it or why. It could be a trick. Maybe someone wanted to harm her. Maybe it was a cruel joke. But she also knew one truth: if she stayed on this planet, her daughter would not survive the next month. So she walked. Track 17's old spaceport was nearly abandoned now. Most of the shipping lanes were closed and only a few small traders still came and went. Docks 1 to 10 were filled with old mining cargo ships, rusted and quiet. She passed them without stopping. Dock 11 was empty. Dock 12 had a group of soldiers shouting orders. Dock 13 had a broken fence and smelled of fuel. Then came Dock 14. Jala stopped. A ship stood there. Not large, not powerful looking, but strange. It was made from different parts, like it had been repaired 100 times. Its outer shell had both human and alien markings. Some lights flickered. Some didn't. The ramp was down, but no one was around. For a moment, she wondered if it was a trap after all. Then a voice spoke behind her. "You're early." She turned quickly, startled. A tall human man stood there, wearing a black jacket and gray boots covered in travel dust. His eyes were sharp but calm. He had a small device in one hand, like a scanner, and a heavy pack on his shoulder. "You left this," she said, holding the note. "I did," he replied. "You showed up. That's good." Jala stepped back slightly. "Who are you?" "Captain Reed. I run this ship. I need someone who can work hard, follow orders, and not complain when things get rough. You look like the type." She stared. "At him? Why me?" "Because you didn't quit, even when your world did." Jala didn't understand. "I'm just a widow." "I have no special skills." He raised an eyebrow. "You've survived on a dying planet. That's a skill." She looked down at Mira. The girl was awake now, weakly blinking at the morning light. "You want me to clean your ship?" Jala asked. "Be your servant?" "I want you to be part of the crew," Reed said simply. "You'll help maintain basic systems, run cargo checks, and clean, yes. But this isn't slavery. You get food, safe shelter, and pay. In return, I get loyalty. Deal?" Jala hesitated. It sounded too good. "And Mira?" "She stays with you. But if things go wrong, she goes to safety first." "That's my rule." She looked into his eyes. They were serious. No lies, no pity, just truth. After a long pause, she nodded. "I'll do it." "Then welcome aboard." He handed her a small bracelet. "Wear this at all times. It's your ID and safety tag." Jala stepped onto the ship. It was old, but warm inside. Clean, quiet. She felt something strange, safety. It had been years since she felt that. Reed showed her a small room with 2 beds, a heater, and a water supply. "You and Mira can stay here. Rest. We leave in 2 hours. As he turned to go, an alarm buzzed on the wall. Reed frowned and tapped. The screen. The words flashed in red. "Warning. New galactic alert. Bounty detected on passenger. Name, Shala." His eyes narrowed. Shala saw his face change. "What does that mean?" "You didn't tell me someone placed a bounty on you," he said, calm but serious. "I didn't know," she replied, frightened. "I swear." He studied her. "Well, now I need to know why." "I don't know," she said honestly. "My husband, he worked in the mines. He died, that's all." Reed stared at the red alert for a few more seconds. Then he shut off the screen. "Doesn't matter," he said finally. "You're crew now, and I don't abandon my crew." Jala sat down slowly, holding Mira close. Her heart was racing, but not from fear, from something else. Hope. For the first time in years, it had returned. But far out in the stars, in the deep corners of space, someone had noticed her departure. A bounty drone sent a signal to its master. "Target Jala has left track 17. Tracking initiated." Jala had never seen stars this way before. Through the ship's main window, space stretched out like a sea of shining dust. Mira was asleep in the small bunk, breathing easier now with clean air. The hum of the engine was gentle, like a lullaby. For a short time, Jala allowed herself to believe they were safe. Captain Reed stood at the control panel, checking coordinates. His crew moved quietly, a mix of humans and aliens, each busy with their tasks. No one asked Jala too many questions. No one looked at her with judgment. That alone felt like a new world. But inside Reed's private cabin, the alert still blinked. Bounty active. Jala. Unknown reason. High-level encryption. He stared at the message and then at Jala's profile on his monitor. Her record was short, widow, no known crimes, no military ties. Nothing about her made sense. Who places a bounty on a poor mother from a dead planet? Later that day, they stopped at Station Virik, a mid-tier trade outpost known for parts, food, and data markets. Jala offered to help unload supplies. Reed allowed it, keeping a careful eye. Mira, wearing a clean jacket now, held Jala's hand. The girl smiled at a passing vendor who gave her a candy stick. It was the first time Jala had seen her smile in weeks. Reed pulled Jala aside as the crew spread out. "I need to check something in the data sector," he said. "You should come." "Why?" she asked, feeling tension in his voice. "Because I think someone's hunting you, and we need to know why." Inside the station's data vaults, Reed paid a quiet slicer, a thin man with metal eyes and long fingers, to dig into old mine records from Track 17. Jala waited, confused. After a while, the slicer raised his head. "There's a hidden file connected to your husband. Name, Joran, minor class. Died 6 years ago, right?" Jala nodded. The slicer tapped his screen. "Your husband wasn't just a miner. He discovered something. A rare type of energy crystal. Not normal, higher density, possibly worth millions." Jala's eyes widened. "But he never told me." "He didn't get the chance," the slicer said. "The report was sealed. Someone covered it up. But it seems someone still wants that crystal, or thinks you have it." Jala's mind raced. "But I don't know anything about it." The slicer leaned back. "That might not matter. To some people, just being close to the truth is enough." Reed thanked the slicer and guided Jala out of the vault. "Do you remember anything? Anything strange before he died?" She tried to think. "He used to come home late. Said he was working a special shaft alone. He was tired, quiet. Last night he gave Mira a toy, said it was for protection. Then the cave collapsed the next day." Reed stopped. "What kind of toy?" "A small animal, plastic, yellow. Mira still has it." Back on the ship, Jala rushed to her room. Mira was playing with the toy, making it walk across the bed. It looked normal, old and scratched. But when Reed scanned it with his device, it beeped. "There's something inside," he said. He opened the bag carefully. Inside was a tiny glowing shard, no bigger than a fingernail. It pulsed with faint blue light. "This is not just a crystal," Reed muttered. "It's encoded." "Encoded? With what?" Jala asked, her voice low. He placed it into the ship's analyzer. Data flashed across the screen. Coordinates, star paths. Symbols from an ancient language. "It's a map," Reed said, "or a key." "Maybe both." Jala stared at it. "You think Joran hid this inside Mira's toy to protect it?" "I think he died trying to keep it secret," Reed replied. "And now someone knows it's still out there." In that moment, Mira climbed into Jala's arms. She was smiling again, unaware of the danger. Jala held her tightly. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Reed looked at her seriously. "Now we decide, keep running, or find out what your husband died for." Jala didn't answer right away. Her thoughts were full of questions, fear, and something else, a feeling she hadn't known in years. Purpose. As the ship left station Virik and disappeared into hyperspace, far behind them, a cloaked bounty hunter received a signal from a stolen sensor beacon. Target Jala located. Tracking crystal confirmed. Prepare to intercept. The stars outside the ship seemed to blur as they entered hyperspace. The engines hummed with steady rhythm, but tension hung heavy in the air. Jala sat beside her daughter, holding her small hand, watching the glowing crystal rest inside a sealed container. What once looked like a toy was now something dangerous. A secret map that others were willing to kill for. Captain Reed sat at the main control desk, eyes fixed on the screen. Lines of code and coordinates flashed quickly as he ran scan after scan. His crew moved with urgency, checking systems, locking down weak points. The ship was old but strong, like its captain. "We've got a tail," said Lena, the ship's radar specialist. A tall woman with a cybernetic eye and quiet voice. "Something followed us through the drift gate. No ID." Reed leaned closer. "How long?" 4 minutes behind. Stealth drive. Maybe more than one ship. Jala heard the words but didn't fully understand them. Still, the look on everyone's face told her what she needed to know. They were being hunted. "Why not just give them the crystal?" she asked. "Maybe they'll leave us alone." Reed shook his head. "People like that never stop. Even if you give it, they'll kill you to make sure you never speak. We don't run forever. We survive." Jala nodded slowly. Her fingers tightened around Mira's. Reed pressed a few keys. A small hologram of the galaxy appeared, showing several blinking red zones. "If we take the direct route, we'll be caught. But if we cut through the abandoned sector, the veil dust." "We might shake them," Lena frowned. "No one flies through the veil. Sensors don't work there." "It's a graveyard." Reed looked calm. "Then we make sure we don't become ghosts." The ship changed course sharply, engines flaring. The lights flickered and the stars outside shifted. They entered a region filled with floating debris. Old broken ships, rocks, and strange clouds of blue gas. Inside the veil dust, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Even sound on the ship felt softer, like something was watching them from the dark. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. "EMP blast!" shouted Lena. "Rear systems hit." "One of the hunters found us," Reed cursed under his breath. "Shut down everything but life support. Make it look like we're dead." Lights dimmed. Engines fell silent. The ship drifted among broken satellites and empty husks. Jala held Myra close in the dark. The girl trembled but didn't cry. She was learning quickly how to be quiet in danger. Through a small window, Jala saw a ship float past, sleek, black, and silent. No markings. Its lights scanned in all directions like a wolf sniffing for prey. One wrong move, one sound, and they would be found. Time passed slowly. Seconds felt like hours. Then, finally, the enemy ship turned and vanished into the dust. Reed waited 10 more minutes before powering systems back online. "We're clear," he said quietly. But his tone was not relaxed. He knew it wasn't over. Down in the cargo bay, the crew gathered. Jala stood with them, still clutching the container that held the crystal. Reed faced them. "Whatever this crystal leads to, it's not just treasure. It's something powerful, something people are afraid of." "Why are we helping her?" asked Darrow, the alien pilot with thick red skin and tired eyes. "This isn't our war." "Because she didn't ask for this," Reed replied. "And because someone needs to stand between the powerful and the powerless." The crew fell silent. Then, one by one, they nodded. Zhala felt something strange in her chest. Not fear, not anymore. Belonging. Later that night, as Mira slept peacefully, Jala sat with Reed in the engine room. "You didn't have to save us," she said. Reed looked at her, calm as always. "I didn't. I gave you a choice. You saved yourself." Jala smiled faintly. "You talk like a soldier. I was. A long time ago. Now I just fly, try to fix things when I can." Jala leaned back against the wall. "What do you think this map leads to?" Reed glanced toward the sealed container. "Something worth dying for." She looked down at her hands. "Then I hope it's also worth living for." At that same moment, far behind them, inside the dark command chamber of a bounty vessel, a cloaked figure studied the trail left in the veil dust. "She has the crystal," he whispered. "And now she has help." He turned to his crew. "Send the signal. Tell the syndicate, it's time to move." The stars were fewer now. As Captain Reed's ship floated into uncharted space, even the galaxy itself seemed quieter, as if holding its breath. Jala stood near the main console, watching the crystal pulse inside its case. The blue glow was steady, almost alive. Mira sat next to her, playing with a simple toy made by Lena from old ship parts. A little robotic bird that chirped softly and flapped its wings. For a moment, everything seemed peaceful, but peace didn't last long in. They're part of a universe. "We've reached the edge of the mapped star lanes," Reed announced, tapping a few buttons. "After this, no coordinates, no records, only rumors." "Rumors of what?" Jala asked. Red looked at her, then at the crystal. "Of an ancient station, hidden far beyond the known sectors. Some say it was built by the founders, the first intelligent race in the galaxy, a place of knowledge. Some say it holds power, clean energy, limitless and free." Jala raised an eyebrow. "And others?" "Others say it's cursed, a trap, or worse, a weapon." The room fell quiet, but the crystal began to react, glowing brighter, spinning slowly inside the case. Then, without warning, it sent out a beam of light, a projection of the galaxy, with one small point blinking far away from any known system. Lena's eyes widened. "That's not in any star chart." Reed zoomed in. "There it is. That's where your husband wanted you to go." Jala felt her heart pound. She hadn't known Joran was hiding something so powerful or dangerous. Why had he never told her? Had he known it would one day fall to her? "I'm not a hero," she whispered. "No one starts as one," Reed replied. The ship changed course again, following the glowing line the crystal had revealed. Days passed. The stars grew sparse, the light outside darker, colder. No other ships, no signals. Just the sound of the engine and the breath of those on board. Jala spent time learning from the crew. She helped in the kitchen, cleaned filters, even learned how to patch wires with Lena's guidance. Mira became stronger too, laughing more, sleeping better. Every smile from her daughter gave Jala more reason to go forward. Then one day, as they reached the final stretch, the ship shook violently. "Incoming fire!" Darrow shouted from the cockpit. "Who found us?" Reed demanded. Lena checked the scanner. No ID, no warning, just bang. The enemy ship wasn't large, but it was fast, sleek, built for capture and chase. "They want the crystal," Reed said. "And they don't care who dies getting it." "We can't outrun them," Darrow growled. "We're heavier." Reed stood still for a second, then gave orders. "Prepare escape pod. We'll eject it. Make it look like we abandoned the crystal. Meanwhile, we head toward the destination. Full speed." Jala stared. "You'd trick them?" Reed smirked. "They expect us to run scared. Let's disappoint them." The plan worked. As the enemy ship focused on the pod, the crew jumped to light speed again, headed toward the blinking point on the map. Hours later, they dropped out of warp. There it was, floating quietly in a pocket of black space. A massive structure. Not a station, not really. It looked like a sphere wrapped in golden vines, with glowing orbs circling around it like moons. No one spoke. The ship's sensors struggled to read it. No known material, no signs of life. But the crystal inside the case was now burning bright, like it had come home. "Do we dock?" Lena asked. Reed looked at Jala. "It's your map, your choice." Jala stepped forward, breath shaking. "Let's go." A docking bay opened on its own, silently. No sound, no lights. Just a smooth, perfect welcome. Jala, Mira, and Reed entered the structure first. The walls were metallic but warm. Symbols appeared on the walls as they walked, changing, shifting, until finally stopping in a language Jala could read. Keyholder. Detected. Welcome. Jala looked at Reed in shock. I'm no keyholder, she said. I'm just a miner's widow. Not anymore, he said quietly. A panel opened ahead, revealing a small platform. Jala stepped onto it, holding Mira's hand. The crystal lifted from its container and floated into the center of the room. Light filled the space. Images appeared, planets suffering, cities dark, children coughing like Mira once had. Then the crystal showed them energy flowing freely. Healing those worlds. Jala's voice trembled. It can fix them. All of them. But it'll make enemies, Reed warned. People who profit from suffering won't stay quiet. Jala looked down at her daughter. Then she looked up. Then let them come. The platform rose silently, carrying Jala and Mira into the heart of the ancient station. The air felt heavier here, not because it was hard to breathe, but because the space itself seemed filled with memory. Not noise, not sound, but memory. As the doors closed behind them, golden lights lit the walls like fireflies waking up from sleep. Mira's eyes widened in wonder, but she clung to her mother's hand. Jala stood tall, nervous but firm. She didn't know what she was walking into, only that her husband had died to lead her here. Then a voice spoke. It wasn't loud, yet it filled every part of the chamber. Smooth, calm, and not male or female, something beyond human or alien. Welcome. Shala. Bloodline verified. Connection complete. Jala's heart skipped. Who are you? I am the keeper. I have waited 4,000 years for your return. Jala looked at Reed, who had followed behind. He gave a slight nod as if saying, just listen. The lights formed into a soft image, not quite a person, but close. A glowing outline of a tall figure appeared before them. This place was built by the ancients, the keeper said. Your ancestors. A peaceful race who believed energy must be free, not sold. When war broke out across the stars, they hid this station, and one day hoped the last of their line would return. Jala stepped forward slowly. But I'm no leader. I'm no scientist. I was just a miner's wife. Yet you survived, the keeper replied. You lived when others fell. You protected your child. You carried the key. That is enough. The glowing crystal floated upward and entered a golden slot in the center of the chamber. A low hum began to rise, like the station was waking. From a deep ancient sleep. Suddenly, images flashed across the walls. Planets with dying air, water poisoned, children working in factories. And then, light bursting from this station, energy flowing out like rivers, reaching far into the stars. If activated, the keeper said, this station will release power to every poor and forgotten world. Enough to end need. But there is danger. What kind of danger? Reed asked. The lights dimmed for a moment. Then came new images, darker ones. Ships painted black. Symbols of the Galactic Syndicate, the shadow empire that ruled many outer worlds through greed and fear. Their leaders grew rich by keeping power in their hands. They will come, said the keeper. They have tried before. They failed, but now they are close. Jala looked at Mira, who was watching with wide eyes. Then she looked at Reed. What? If we walk away? Leave this place hidden again? Reed's voice was low. They already know you found it. You can't go back to being invisible. Silence followed. Jala took a long breath. Then we finish what my husband started. The keeper paused. Then the station responded. Command accepted. Energy pulse initializing. Back on the ship, Lena shouted over the comm. We've got company. 3 ships, Syndicate class, coming in fast. Shields up. Darrow shouted. They're not here to talk. Inside the station, the platform began to shake. The energy release will take time, said the keeper. You must protect the core until it finishes. Reed turned to Jala. Can you stay here and control the process? Jala nodded. Go. Hold them off. I'll do my part. Reed gave her one final look, one of quiet respect, then ran. Out toward the docking bay with his crew, Jala turned back to the floating controls. Her hands trembled, but she touched the panels with steady fingers. Instructions appeared in her own language, guiding her step by step. Outside, battle began. The enemy ships were faster, stronger, but Reed's crew fought smart. They dodged between station rings, fired at weak points, used the ancient structure as a shield. Inside, Mira sat beside her mother, watching the lights grow brighter. Jala whispered, "This is for you. For all children who couldn't run." The core began to glow so brightly it lit the entire station. A soft hum rose into a roar. Reed's ship was hit. Sparks flew. Darrow shouted that engines were failing. Reed yelled back, "We hold the line." Then, at last, silence. The light burst from the station like a sunrise across space. A massive wave of energy spread outward, clean and warm, reaching distant satellites, broken machines, dying colonies. Across the galaxy, lights flickered back on in places that had been dark for years. On mining worlds, on refugee ships, in broken cities, people looked up. Something had changed. Jala stood still, breathing hard, holding Mira close. Hope had arrived. But far away, in the Syndicate Central Command Chamber, an old man in a dark cloak watched the signal rise across his screens. He turned to his generals. "She awakened it," he said coldly. "The girl, the mother, the last of them." He clenched his fist. "Then now we destroy her." The galaxy had changed, but change never comes quietly. From the ancient station, the energy pulse had reached worlds long forgotten. Lights returned to broken homes. Machines restarted in cities buried by dust. Children drank clean water. Air became breathable in places where even hope had died. But in the cold corners of space, the powerful were not celebrating. The Galactic Syndicate, rich and cruel, watched their profits disappear. Their factories shut down. Their energy markets collapsed. Their grip was loosening, all because of one woman, a widow, a mother. A survivor. Now, they wanted her dead. Inside the station, repairs were still underway. The system had used much of its old power to send that wave. It would take time before it could defend itself again. Captain Reed knew this. And so did the enemy. He paced across the ship's main deck, staring at the radar. 6 Syndicate ships incoming. Heavy class. ETA, 10 minutes. Lena was at the controls. "No way we can outrun them." Darrow, bruised and limping, growled. "Then we fight until we can't," Reed nodded. "We fight smart." Below deck, Jala sat beside Mira, brushing dust from her daughter's hair. She could feel the station breathing around her, not alive like a person, but awake like an old soul stretching after a long sleep. She heard the alarms. Footsteps echoed. Reed entered the chamber. His face was calm, but she saw the truth in his eyes. "They're coming," she said. He nodded. "Too many." "We'll hold them as long as we can." Jala stood. "I'll help." "You've done enough." "No," she said firmly. "My husband died trying to protect this. I will live protecting it." She turned to the keeper, the ancient voice of the station. "Is there anything left? Any way to stop them?" "There is one weapon," the keeper said. "Unfinished. buried in the station's heart. A defense field powerful enough to disable a fleet. Why haven't we used it? Because it requires a direct neural link. From the last of the bloodline, Jala understood. If I link to it, what happens to me? Silence. Then the keeper answered, "It may take your mind, or your life, but it will save the station. It will protect the galaxy's last hope." Reed stepped forward. "No, there has to be another way." Jala looked at him. "You gave me a choice when no one else did. Now I'm giving myself one." She knelt beside Mira. "You be strong now, little light," she whispered. "You'll have a new world to live in, a better one." Mira touched her mother's face. "Don't go," Jala kissed her forehead. "I'm not going far. I'll always be where the stars shine." She turned to Reed. "Promise me you'll protect her." "I swear it," he said quietly. Jala walked alone into the chamber of the core. Lights lit around her like fire. The ancient machine opened, revealing a silver chair surrounded by wires and glass. She sat down. The link began. Pain surged. Memories rushed through her mind, not just hers, but of thousands before her. Voices, songs, screams, laughter, all. The lives of her ancestors flooding through her veins. Above the station, the syndicate fleet arrived. Weapons locked. They opened fire, but before the blast could land, the station pulsed. A dome of golden light exploded outward, swallowing the ships mid-attack. Engines died. Weapons froze. The fleet spun helplessly, powerless. Inside the chair, Jala's body trembled. Her eyes filled with light. Her voice, no longer her own, echoed through the station. "This place is not yours to take. You have stolen enough. Now you lose." One by one, the syndicate ships powered down. Then slowly the dome faded. The battle was over. On the deck, Reed stood in silence, watching the stars return to calm. Lena whispered, "Did she survive it?" Reed ran down to the core. He found her. Jala was still in the chair, eyes closed, body still. But she was breathing, shallow but alive. The keeper's voice spoke softly. She gave everything. But the system protected her. She is safe, resting. Reed lifted her gently. He carried her back to Myra. When the little girl saw her mother, her eyes lit up. She ran and hugged her. Jala's fingers twitched. "Mira," she whispered. Reed smiled. "You did it. You came home." Days later, the station became a hub for rebuilding. Refugees arrived. Engineers studied the systems. Energy was shared freely, not sold. The symbol of the syndicate, once feared, became a joke, a forgotten mark of greed. And in the heart of it all, people spoke of a legend, the widow who awakened. The stars. Jala walked among them, quiet, gentle. Her mind took time to heal, but her spirit was stronger than ever. One evening, as the sun rose over a reborn world nearby, she stood beside Reed and watched Mira play with other children. Jala looked up at the sky. "No alien gave me a chance," she said softly. Reed nodded. "But a human did.